This is about to be a bad day, so I'm just gonna do an angry rant about it. What's up gamers, Dreamcastguy here, and this morning there's been lots of leaks and rumors about a Nintendo Direct coming out tomorrow, which obviously has a lot of us very excited. So as soon as I woke up, I started checking out a bunch of news sites and stuff to see what the exact details could be, and I stumbled upon this article over on ScreenRant.com. It's not Final Fantasy Tactics, but Square's new mobile game is close enough. Alright, now let's just break this down. I'm going to read the article, I want to show you parts of the trailer, and explain why this is amazing and simultaneously such a freaking dumpster fire. Now personally, I am a mega fan of Final Fantasy Tactics, but this isn't really special. A lot of people very much love the Final Fantasy Tactics series. There have been a lot of them, and they are very good projects. I own the original games, I own the PSP remake. Most specifically though, and what I'm most proud of is I have the Game Boy Advance game complete in its even a little tiny cardboard box. These games are special because they managed to have this turn-based combat that's so tactical and strategic. Being good at Final Fantasy Tactics actually feels good, and I've just been so curious to see when they would revisit it. Square Enix are the masters of role-playing games, so why is it that they themselves are not bringing it back, despite the fact that obviously millions of people have been begging for over 10 years to get another entry? Well, here we go. It actually exists, and in just the worst format. Square Enix isn't releasing a new Final Fantasy Tactics game outright, but War of the Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is close, and it's free, making it an appealing title to try out and see if it scratches the itch that so many fans have had for years. Now here's the thing, already I'm nervous. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius has had a lot of problems, mostly because it is a free-to-play mobile title. The way that these operate is trying to maximize your pay to play, making it where the game is fun enough that you're going to want to keep logging into it, but simultaneously boring enough that you're going to want to pay to win. Now in this, they talk about it a bit. For Square Enix, the Final Fantasy brand has been expanding into the mobile platform slowly, gaining some traction with Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which was the beneficiary of some major crossover events and subsequent success in Japan. The game never really broke into Western markets the same way other titles like Fate Grand Order have, but it's indicative of where Square is most willing to experiment with the Final Fantasy franchise. Yeah, so here's the thing, Brave Exvius had stuff that would actually kind of revealed stuff about Final Fantasy VII. They had characters from other games jumping into the universe. It seemed like their way of trying to kind of throw everything into one big ball. But here we go. That's where War of Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius comes in. A Final Fantasy Tactics inspired game that is a spin-off, and guess what? It isn't advertised as a Final Fantasy Tactics spiritual successor. War of the Visions is exactly that. Straight down to the camera angles and flow of battle in this free-to-play game. Even the story hits on the same sort of politically charged commentary that made Final Fantasy Tactics a compelling journey beyond its nearly flawless tactical combat. Now here's the trailer. So they have a trailer here, and I want to take a look at it, but the combat specifically. A lot of this trailer is like lore and stuff explaining, oh, this is going to be the grand expansion of the game itself. I want to show you the combat to show that this really is, at its heart, this is Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm going to slow it down a tiny bit here. We're going to put this at playback speed 75. I want to show you it a little bit slower just so you can get a chance to realize this is 100% Final Fantasy Tactics. So we have items on the field, we have characters doing, of course, big, giant, cool, magical attacks, lots and lots of different stuff like classes, and here's the big key part. Oh, this is the thing I hate. Espers and stuff, this is clearly going to be the microtransactions. And this is what drives me nuts. So everything about this seems cool until you realize this is going to be a gacha game. This is going to be one of those things where there's going to be like a giant slot machine and every day you get like a free pull of the machine. But if you want the more rare characters, of course you need to spend actual money. Here we go. As a mobile game, War of the Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius changes some elements of the formula that made Final Fantasy Tactics such a compelling title. There is a character role for a system loop to keep players coming back, for instance, and a lot more planned content. That is why I'm making an angry rant, is this line specifically. They're going to take Final Fantasy Tactics, one of the greatest strategy RPGs ever created, some of the most genius design that has ever been put down to code, and they're going to make it a cell phone game where if you get stuck on a boss, you can buy extra heroes. You can get randomized people that are stronger or weaker or some like 5-star summons. It drives me nuts because this seems very much to sort of taint the enjoyment of Final Fantasy Tactics. The specialness of it has always come down to the fact that it's a game that sort of celebrates your skill and your intelligence. The better you are able to figure out all the systems of Final Fantasy Tactics, the more you could excel at it. And now it just comes down to microtransactions and what are basically slot machine loot crates. The thing that kind of irks me the most is that this guy is already trying to spin it like it's a positive. This game journalist, look at this line here. With that said, however, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as new characters means more tactical options, and the game is already proving it will have crossover support of Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers as a free part of the launch celebrations. They're going to be selling extra characters. There's going to be a freaking microtransaction system much like Fire Emblem on cell phones had, and I just want the authentic experience. I want to see Final Fantasy Tactics come to consoles. Even if you just took the older games and dropped them on the Nintendo Switch or the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, they would sell millions of copies. But they're not happy with just selling you a great game for $60. Instead, they want to try and get millions of people to get addicted to that loot crate drug. The part of this, though, that I hate to admit, I'm gonna install this. I'm gonna be an absolute idiot and try this for myself because I'm such a sucker for Final Fantasy Tactics. But let me just swear right here, never am I gonna buy anything. I'm never gonna spend a penny on this, mostly because I despise microtransactions and I'm still just somebody that is very, very against even the concepts of microtransactions. I hate that this is what it's gonna become, and it shows that Square Enix, more than anything, they're willing to try and sell you a giant cool experience, but if they can find a way to recombobulate something and turn it into a slot machine, they're absolutely going to do it. Perhaps the worst part of the gaming industry right now is that this business works. I guess what's kind of making me feel like kind of an outdated gamer at times is that I still love complete experiences. I love games now where you're able to just pay an upfront price and get the entire game or the full story. I appreciate games now, especially when they have a lot of polish, because you get a chance to just see, hey, these game developers have made something that they think is perfect and now they're ready for you to pay for it. That's kind of the way a lot of these games work. Whether it be Doom Eternal or Animal Crossing, these games are fun, they're upfront about their cost, and they're trying to be transparent as to what their visions are. Mobile games are based around obfuscation, about trying to confuse you and make it where the line to success is never clear. There is no way that this is going to have a good story. I don't care how much they're trying to hype up the plot lines of Brave Exvius in the trailer, this is not going to be a full, true Final Fantasy Tactics experience. It is going to be a watered-down cell phone game, and we deserve better. Final Fantasy Tactics is amazing. Final Fantasy is such a gem. It is something that manages to be so good in so many different genres. But please, if you're going to put it on cell phones, I only ask, make it have an upfront cost, that way we can just buy it as a cell phone game complete in box if we want, or B, at least, at the very least, port something to consoles. Give us a chance to play stuff on a real system with a real controller and hopefully get a real freaking plot. These have just been my off-the-cuff thoughts, though. Honestly, I'm just aggravated. I wish that this was better, but I guess this is the best we're gonna get. Thanks so much for watching, gamers, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I had fun pulling out all my Final Fantasy Tactics stuff for this. I actually own strategy guides for each of the Final Fantasy Tactics games as well, all in mint condition. It kind of makes me realize that maybe I'm a bigger Final Fantasy Tactics fan than I really sat down and thought about. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.